You've reached the activism portion of today's show. Now that you're informed and angry, here's what you can do about it. Today's activism: stop H.R. 620, tell Congress to protect the Americans with Disabilities Act. As mentioned in our first clip from Counterspin, there is little enforcement of the nearly 27-year-old Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as the ADA. Every time their civil rights are infringed upon, citizens with disabilities must fight to defend those rights in court. That's not an ideal situation, but it's often the path that produces most immediate results in the society we live in. The reality is that businesses, even after 27 years, continue to blatantly ignore ADA compliance, and now a bipartisan-backed bill, always something to be worried about, has been reintroduced by Representative Ted Poe of Texas that will weaken the one tool available to people with disabilities fighting for their civil rights, and the primary way the ADA is enforced. H.R. 620, or the ADA Education and Reform Act of 2017, sounds lovely. In an attempt to, quote, protect business owners, unquote, who are already violating the law, H.R. 620 puts even more of a burden on the person whose rights are being violated. If this bill passes, a disabled person must first be denied access, then must determine that violations of the law have occurred, then must provide the business with specific written notice of which provisions of the law were violated and when, and finally, the aggrieved person with the disability must afford the business a lengthy period to correct the problem. The person whose civil rights are being ignored would have to endure and do all of this before they could even file a lawsuit. The legislation failed to pass the House last year due to successful activism from the disability community to squelch it, but under a new administration, it's reared its head again. In a letter to lawmakers, the Consortium of Citizens with Disabilities wrote, quote, "If, after 27 years, a business has continued to not comply with the requirements of this legislation, why should a person have to wait more time for enforcement of their civil rights? Should an individual who is not allowed to enter a restaurant because of their race, gender, or religion have to wait before seeking to enforce their civil rights?" Unquote. You can help kill this bill again, and perhaps for good, by calling your legislators today and telling them you will not stand for legislation that weakens the ADA and puts more burden on the very people it aims to protect, while businesses continue to violate a 27-year-old civil rights law. Get up to speed on the bill, read the statements from the disability community, and watch and share videos about the importance of the ADA and how we can build on it on the National Disability Rights Network website at ndrn.org. The segment notes include all of the links to this information as well as additional resources, and as always, this and every activism segment we produce is archived and organized under the Activism tab at bestoftheleft.com. So if defending civil rights for all is important to you, be sure to hit the share buttons to spread the word about telling Congress to protect the Americans with Disabilities Act via social media so that others in your network can spread the word too.